I think that he knew what I was going to be the day I was born. I think he had this all planned out to find out how I would take this and how I would carry it. You know what I'm saying?
Hi guys, welcome to the Ratchet Christian. My name is Asmao and I am the Ratchet Christian. Thank you all for joining me again today. I have some new subscribers. So hello, hi, welcome to the new people. I need to get better about looking into the camera, so I'm going to do that. But today we're going to be talking about the war in Iran and the war that's being waged on Joe Kent right now, who recently resigned in his position and has been talking a lot about why that is. I'm going to start with my personal story and why I personally can't support the war in Iran. And that's because I survived a war. You know, I am from Sierra Leone. This is my country's flag right here. Represent, woo woo. I'm Sierra Leonean. You know, I'm half Guinean, half Sierra Leonean. I was born in Freetown, Sierra Leone in 1992, and the war had started a year prior to that. So I was born in my country during a time of civil war, and I and my family had to run for our lives during the time of that war. And so before I get too deep into my own personal story, let me give you a brief synopsis of what that conflict was all about.
March 23, 1991, a small but heavily armed group of rebels, calling themselves the Revolutionary United Front RUF, crossed the border from Liberia into Sierra Leone. Their goal, to overthrow the Sierra Leonean government, which they claimed was corrupt, elitist, and neglectful of ordinary citizens. They entered through Bomaru, a quiet town near the Liberia-Sierra Leone border. From there, they launched a surprise attack on nearby villages in the Kailahun district, killing, looting, and spreading fear. This attack eventually developed into one of the deadliest civil wars in modern African history. From 1991 to 2002, more than 50,000 lives were lost, thousands of people mutilated, properties destroyed, and over 2.5 million people displaced, and children turned into child soldiers. The big question is, who were these rebels? What did they really want? Did they ever get what they wanted, and what were the effects of their activities? Sit tight for this one. In this video, we shall break down the Sierra Leone civil war like never before, and we shall be telling you in great detail how this war ruined.
So that is one of the best summaries that I've heard about the war in Sierra Leone, and I'm going to find that full video that I clipped from and put in the description so that you can watch it whenever you want to. But yeah, so I survived one of the most deadly civil. Why can I not talk? I'm nervous for some reason. Why am I nervous? This is my podcast. I'm at home. No one's bothering me. I guess maybe because it's like I'm talking about something that's like so sensitive to me and like my own personal life, you know. I've talked about it a few times on here. But yeah, I feel like in good faith, I can never support a war because I know what it feels like. You know, to most Americans, war is a theory. Unless you've been in the military and you've deployed to a war zone, you can't really conceptualize how a war is until you are in it. And because I've experienced it, you know, I can't ever support war in Ukraine, war in Gaza, war in Iran, because I know what it feels like. And to most Americans, we're just watching it from our phones. You know what I mean? But it would be a different story if you were experiencing it in real life, if your homes and cars and lives were being destroyed in real life. And so this is the only baby picture that I have of myself. I have never seen, so that's me, by the way, me and my little friends, you know, I had to block them out because I don't know where they are. I haven't spoken to them since this age. This is the only baby picture that I have of myself. And I'm not even a baby. I'm not even a baby in this picture, but this is the picture that I have of me at the youngest age that I've seen. And you want to know why? Because we had to flee for our lives in the middle of the night. You know, my mom couldn't stop and grab our baby pictures, you know, when we were running for our lives. I remember this is when I was still back home. Our bathrooms were like outside. And so I remember like going outside at night to go to the bathroom, and then, walking back towards the house was a short distance, walking back towards the house, and then I just see my dad like running out of the house. He's running, and he's running towards me. I'm like, why is like, what's going on? Why is he running towards me? And I was probably like maybe 5 or 6 at this time. I was around this age or probably even younger. I think this picture was taken in Guinea like a year after the war. Um, so I was probably like a year younger than this when it happened. So this story that I'm telling you probably happened a year before this. So I'm at this age or younger. I go outside. Mind you, I'm in Sierra Leone. I go outside to use the restroom. My dad comes back. It's nighttime. He's running towards me. He picks me up. I'm like, what's going on? And my dad's like, the rebels are here. The rebels are here. And he's talking about the people, you know, the RUF who had started that civil war, had finally made its way to my town, to my village. And so my parents, I had 3 sisters at the time. My parents are packing up our house, whatever it is that they can like get and put into bags. They fill up the bags at whatever they can carry, and then our dad leads us out the back door towards the back of our house, and then we start walking. And I remember asking my dad, like we had cars at the time. I'm like, Baba, why aren't we taking the cars? And my dad said, if we take the cars, the rebels will see us. And so me and my family walked. I have the distance right here. Me and my family walked from Freetown, Sierra Leone to Guinea Conakry when I was about 5 or 6 years old. That's 249 miles that I walked on foot as a refugee, as a displaced person because of the conflict in my country. Okay. I have seen this with my own eyes. My own eyes. I have seen this. I have walked 249 miles to another country because of war. I did it at this age. So war is not a theory for me. I have seen war. At that age, I fled for my life with my family through the bush to get to safety. So when we talk about war in Iran and we talk about war here and war that, y'all, you don't know. You don't know. You have no idea. You have no idea what you're asking for. You have no idea what you're supporting. I do. And so that's why in good conscience, I will never support war. I cannot support war. I have no desire to see other people's lives destroyed for biblical ideology, for political ideology. It's wrong to take the lives of innocent people. It just is. And that's not to say, oh, Iran's, innocent and this and this and that. It's a very complicated geopolitical issue. I'm aware of that. I am aware of that. And I've done my best to be abreast of the situation and to understand what it is that's going on. But my parents don't talk about the war. They remember more about the war than I do. I was very young. I only remember little snippets of it. I remember us walking past the river. My dad said one of my older sisters, like as we were walking through the bush, he ended up having to carry her like a long part of the way because she got like a stick stuck in her foot. And I always remember the story on the times that I'm able to get my parents to talk about it, to kind of spill some lore about the war, because the people who survived this war, they don't want to talk about it. So I'm sensitive to that. And so I don't ask my parents too much about Sierra Leone civil war. But when I get the nerve, and I do, I ask them questions. And I remember my mom telling me, she was like, we went while we were walking to Guinea, we stopped in this little town, and you would not stop crying. We stopped in this little town to rest. You kept crying and crying and crying. And you kept saying, the rebels are coming. The rebels are coming. I could not console you. I could not console you at all. And so finally, the chief of that town, the head of that town, came to me and said, you and your family, take this child and leave. She's making too much noise. She's going to get us killed. Take her and go. And my mom says we had no choice because you would not stop crying because you were so afraid. We had no choice but to pack up and leave and to keep walking. And she was like, no sooner did we leave that town did the rebels come, and they unalived everybody in that town. My mom tells me there was a time, because one of the markers of that war was the fact that they used child soldiers. She was like, there was this guy who joined our ranks, like, our big group of people who were walking because we were displaced, millions of us displaced, running for our lives. She was like, this guy had came into our like ranks, and was, cozying up to the kids and all that type of stuff. And she was like, you did not like him. You would not go near him. You would not talk to him. Like you just did not trust him. And she was like, I come to find out he was one of the rebel soldiers coming to steal children. And so, my mom has stories like this of the war. And every now and then, every couple years, I can get her to like spill the tea and tell me. But it's not often. It's not often because they don't want to talk about this type of stuff. And I understand. And so for me, I love politics and I'm involved in politics because I've lived a very political life. I've lived a very political life and I'm grateful. It's only by God's grace that everyone in my family survived, and by God's grace, I ended up coming to America. So it's literally best case scenario, but there's so many people whose stories didn't work out that way in the Civil War, and I'm very lucky that I escaped with my life. And I want to advocate for people, across the world because war is no joke. War is no joke. And so that's why when Senator Joe Kent, excuse me, he's not a senator. Let me get the facts about who he is. Joe Kent, hold on, because I wrote it down. Joe Kent is the director or was the director of National Terrorism Center. This is him. This is him right here. That is Joe Kent. And he is the let's see right here. I want to get it right because I know who he is, but I want to make sure I get his title right. He is the ex-director of National Terrorism Center. And so Joe Kent, he decided that he was going to resign. When we decided that we were going to involve ourselves in the conflict in Iran, he decided, you know what, in good conscience, I can't be a part of this. I can't be a part of this because the reason why people voted for Trump, the reason why I voted for Trump, the reason why I went out on the limb and voted for Trump and took all the disrespect and all the name calling and all of the shame and all of the being shunned by society is because I believed we had a candidate that really understood that we didn't want forever wars. I believed that we had a candidate that was going to put America first and not be sending our money and our resources and soldiers to foreign lands to terrorize them and also to destabilize our country. When I voted for Trump, I was voting for somebody who I thought was going to not take us into more wars. And so Joe Kent, when he joined Trump's administration, I think he believed the same thing, right? So mind you, let me play this clip of Trump because people like to forget. People like to forget. They want to act like if you're conservative and you're not for the war in Iran, it's because you're dumb. It's not because we're dumb. It's not because we're turning our backs on MAGA or this and this and that. It's because this is what was promised to us.
These war hawks, they want to draft your kids to die in wars, and they will never fight themselves. We'll stay around the country for 15 years, just bomb the hell out of everybody, make everybody miserable. Nobody knows why we're there, the wars that never end. These endless wars that we've been in, I've gotten us out of so many. We don't want to get into wars. We're tired of fighting. I'm the only president in the last 84 years that didn't start a war. Under Trump, we will have no more wars. No more wars. No more wars. We will have prosperity and peace. We will have prosperity and we will have peace. Remember, I'm the president of peace. They said, he will start a war. I'm not going to start a war. I'm going to stop wars. He's going to start a war. I said, no. My rhetoric is going to keep us out of wars. And that's what happened. My proudest legacy will be that of a peacemaker. That's what I want to be, a peacemaker. We will measure our success not only by the battles we win, but also by the wars that we end, and perhaps most importantly, the wars we never get into.
Imagine that. Imagine that. Donnell, that's you. Not so long ago, that was the promise. Not so long ago, that's what those of us who risked everything and voted for Donald Trump voted for. Now we're here being gaslit like that was not what he campaigned on. How can you campaign on no more wars? How can you campaign, I'm going to stop the conflict in Ukraine. I'm going to stop the conflict in Gaza. I'm going to stop the conflict, this, and that. And not only did you not do those things, but you started a conflict in Venezuela. We're still in Ukraine. We're still in Gaza. And now you want to convince us that we should go to Iran too. How much further do we have to go as the American people? Why do we have to pretend like this is okay and to not support it is un-American? No, what Trump is doing is un-American because this is not what it is that we voted for. And it's wrong. So Joe Kent, who was the director of counterterrorism, who, mind you, what is a veteran, was deployed 11 times in Iraq and Afghanistan. And I'm going to show you some pictures of like a younger Joe Kent. This is Joe Kent serving his country. This is also Joe Kent as a young man serving his country. This is what he looks like now. But respectfully, this was Joe Kent back in the day. I saw that. I said, holy. Mr. Kent, come to the floor respectfully. Okay. So this is him now. Mind you, he served his country, and his wife also was a soldier who lost her life in Syria defending America. So this is a guy who has shown himself to be a patriot, joined the Trump administration because he believed in the promises that Trump was selling to us. And once we started going to war with Iran, he issued this letter. Okay, let's read it together. Oh, Lord. And I have my glasses on and I'm still like, oh, I wonder if I can make this bigger. Let me see. Can I make this bigger? Nope. Can I make this bigger? No. Okay. So Joe Kent issued this letter and it says, after much reflection, I have decided to resign from my position as director of the National Counterterrorism Center effective today. I support the values and foreign policies that you campaigned on in 2016, 2020, and 2024, which you hold on. I'm too young to not be able to freaking read this, and I want to make sure I get it right. So I'm going to pull it up on my phone so that I can like read it, but I'm also going to put it up on the screen so you all can like read along. So just to refresh your memory, this is Joe Kent, right? And then this is the letter of resignation that he issued recently that's got everyone in an uproar. And so he says, President Trump, after much reflection, I've decided to resign from my position as director of the National Counterterrorism Center effective today. I cannot in good conscience support the ongoing war in Iran. Iran posed no imminent threat to our nation, and it is clear that we started this war due to pressure from Israel and its powerful American lobby, period. I support the values and the foreign policies that you campaigned on in 2016, 2020, 2024, which you enacted in your first term. Until June of 2025, you understood that the wars in the Middle East were a trap that robbed America of the precious lives of our patriots and depleted the wealth and prosperity of our nation. In your first administration, you understood better than any modern president how to decisively apply military power without getting us drawn into never-ending wars. You demonstrated this by killing Qasem Soleimani and by defeating ISIS. Early in this administration, high-ranking Israeli officials and influential members of the American media deployed a misinformation campaign that wholly undermined your America First platform and sowed pro-war sentiments to encourage a war with Iran. This echo chamber was used to deceive you into believing that Iran posed an imminent threat to the United States and that you should strike now. There was no clear path to a swift victory. This was a lie and is the same tactic the Israelis used to draw us into the disastrous Iraq war that cost our nation the lives of thousands of our best men and women. We cannot make this mistake again. As a veteran who deployed to combat 11 times and as a Gold Star husband who lost my beloved wife Shannon in a war manufactured by Israel, I cannot support sending the next generation off to fight and die in a war that serves no benefit to the American people nor justifies the cost of American lives. I pray that you will reflect upon what we are doing in Iran and who we are doing it for. The time for bold action is now. You can reverse course and chart a new path for our nation, or you can allow us to slip further toward decline and chaos. You hold the cards. It was an honor to serve in your administration and to serve our great nation. Incredible. If we just had 100 more men, if we just had 100 more politicians who would have this much integrity and this much guts, this much bravery and courage, I think our nation would be okay. I think would be great. I think we'd be headed towards the right direction. So Joe Kent decided to, let President Trump know I don't agree with the direction that this administration is going, and I'm not going to be a part of it. And I respect that so much. I voted for Trump. And I myself have had to say, I don't agree with the direction that this administration is going. This is not what I voted for. This is not what we voted for. And this is not what the American people deserve. We need our resources. We need our money here. We do not need to go in another never-ending conflict in the Middle East that poses no imminent threat to us. Now, I was paying attention to this situation last year. I watched Tucker Carlson. I'm a fan of his and Candace Owens. I've been keeping my eye on this situation, okay? And I remember an interview with Jeffrey Sachs and Tucker Carlson last year that I never forgot. I always kept it in the back of my mind to remember that. I'm like, I feel like I'm going to have to keep coming back to this because what he said was so insightful and helped me to understand the whole conflict, because as Americans, we never know why we're really going to war. They just tell us that we're going. Oh, they're bad, we're good, we need to go over there and give them freedom. It's not that simple. And we don't really get in-depth answers about stuff. And so I go looking for my own in-depth answers. And so I'm going to share with you the ones that I found. Jeffrey Sachs is an economist, and he also teaches at Columbia, has been involved in geopolitics for a very long time, very well informed. And so Tucker Carlson interviewed him last year. This was his predictions last year, and he explained the conflict with Iran very well last year. And so I'm going to share it with you all so that you can kind of get a deeper understanding of what it is that we're looking at currently. So this is Jeffrey Sachs.
We will end that nuclear program. But if you're trying to overthrow us and threatening us and damning us in every possible way, how can we deal with you? And that led to a number of years of negotiation, and the negotiations culminated during the Obama last years of his government in a treaty that was called the JCPOA, the Joint Comprehensive Agreement in which Iran would stop its nuclear arms development, and we would end the sanctions on Iran and normalize relations. Well, our neocon world, and especially the Israel lobby, could not accept that because Iran is the pure enemy from Israel's point of view, and so the Israelis, to my mind, in a kind of mad, self-defeating, devastatingly wrong-headed approach, convinced the Trump administration, and Bolton was there, of course, doing his usual job of messing things up, which he's done all his career, to break this agreement. And the U.S. kept sanctions, pulled out of the agreement with Iran. And where are we today? Well, where we are today is that it's commonly said and reported that Iran is now either already with the nuclear weapons.
So this was a year ago. That was Jeffrey Sachs, an economist, talking about how we kind of got to this point with Iran. And if I could surmise it, he basically was like, look, we reached an agreement with Iran, under Obama, when we came to a place where we're like, okay, America has this thing, right, where it's like Israel has a right to defend itself, and it absolutely does. But so does every other country. How can you have a country if you can't defend yourself, if you can't have a means of defense from other countries? Every country has a right to defend itself. That's how it remains a country. So Iran, they're like, okay, we don't want you to build up nuclear arms. And if you do, you need to do it under this stipulations. Iran finally got to a place where like, okay, fine. okay, fine. Like we will stick by the stipulations if you remove the sanctions. Obama was like, all right, cool, we'll do that then. And so we were getting to a place of like being at a good place with Iran. And there's a certain place, a certain country that didn't want that, did not want to normalize relationships with Iran, and has been wanting this conflict with Iran. So it's been brewing. It's been something that's been on a list of wants on a particular person's Christmas list. And we won't say who, but it ends with Yahoo. This war with Iran has been wanted by a certain country for a very long time. And so how does it benefit us? How does it truly benefit us? And it seemed like we had a president who understood that it doesn't. But I think we've lost that. And so Joe Kent, again, right here, decided that I'm not gonna get involved. I'm not gonna be a part of another presidential administration that's starting another war for no reason. So he resigned. There's been a media firestorm against him, trying to paint him out to be something other than the hero that he is. And so Tucker Carlson decided to have him on to share his views and his opinions on the situation. And I want you to hear from Joe Kent directly. Here we go.
Some center, and basically through the big points and give you a chance to explain them. You've been spoken for quite a bit over the last 24 hours, so I think it'd be really helpful to all of us if you would speak for yourself and flesh out some of these points. I'm just going to read the first one. I cannot in good conscience support the ongoing war in Iran. Iran posed no imminent threat to our nation. Iran posed no imminent threat to our nation. How did you reach that conclusion?
I think this is key. I mean, this would be more challenging to explain had the Secretary of State, the President, and the Speaker of the House not come out and said that we conducted this attack at this time because the Israelis were about to do so. So that takes away the argument that there was an imminent threat, as in Iran was planning to attack us immediately. That just simply did not exist.
May I ask?
All right. So Joe Kent, again, ex-director of the Center for Counterterrorism, saw the direction that we're going with Iran, said, I don't want to be a part of this, decided to resign in a very public manner. And in the video, he alludes to, okay, well, I don't want to be a part of this war with Iran because they don't technically pose an imminent threat to us. That's what his whole thing was. I'm not going to send, men and women and our resources in America to go to another conflict when we need those resources here. I don't want to be a part of that. That has been Joe Kent's argument. This is not America first, Mr. President. I don't think this is the right thing to do. This is not what you campaigned on, and I don't agree with it. That is all that he has said. So now the media is painting him out to be a bad guy, a coward, a spy. Oh, he's leaked this. Or so instead of focusing on his sound arguments, his sound points, which was, we don't want another forever war, and I don't want to be a part of it. Do you know what the media is doing now? Do you know how they're painting him out to be? As someone who's leaked sensitive information. He's leaked private information from the government to the American people. I mean, God forbid the American people knows what's going on in their own government. Let me show you what they're doing now to Joe Kent. Former counterterrorism head investigated by FBI over alleged leaks. Really? Now he's under investigation. Now they're investigating him for leaking to the media. All he did was say, I don't agree with what you're doing. I don't want to be a part of it. And like he said, what he's saying in Iran not posing an imminent threat to us, he was like, Marco Rubio has said that. Trump has said that. The whole premise of why we got into this war is because, Israel said that they are going to get involved and they're not going to show restraint. And so we better get involved in order to manage the situation. Or that, Israel's going to get involved with Iran. And as a result, Iran could possibly strike us. So it's the possibility of things. We got involved just in case. We got involved just to manage it. So it's like, so there was no imminent threat. And Joe Kent's whole thing was the president has said it, Marco Rubio has said it. They have said that we got involved because we wanted to, manage the situation with our ally. That's not a secret. They have said it. And now the FBI is opening up an investigation on Joe Kent because of what? Former counterterrorism head investigated by FBI over alleged leaks. Listen, in between making sure his girlfriend's okay and hanging out with the hockey players, Kash Patel doesn't have time for this. He doesn't have time for this. We all just need to keep everything cool, calm, and copacetic. He needs to be with his baby. They got country music to sing and jets to fly on. The weather's getting warm. He ain't got time to be dealing with you, Joe Kent. Stop being so patriotic. Stop being such a stand-up guy. Stop being the American hero that you are, who lost his wife in combat serving this country. And so when you see the gaslighting, I wanted to do this episode. When you see the headlines about Joe Kent, I'm sure you've been hearing the name and you're like, what are they talking about? What did he do? He didn't do anything wrong. He did the right thing and he's getting in trouble for it. He did the right thing by telling the American people, I'm not going into another war. I'm not going to support this administration for going into another war because it's not what's best for us. That's his crime. That's his crime. And another interesting part of his interview with Tucker Carlson that he did last week was he mentioned the Charlie Kirk assassination. So his branch was also involved with investigating what happened to Charlie Kirk. And it's very interesting how all of this ties very closely together. So listen to Joe Kent talk about this a little bit.
Look into that at all. And Charlie Kirk was one of President Trump's closest advisors, and he also advocated heavily against a war with Iran. He was in the Oval Office in the lead up to the 12-day war. I wasn't particularly close with Charlie. He was very gracious to me when I was running for Congress, very, very supportive. So we knew each other. And the last time I saw Charlie Kirk on this earth was in June in the West Wing, in the stairway. And I said hi to him, and he looked me in the eye, and he said very loudly, and it's a small, you've been in the West Wing, it's small, it's a tight space. And he said, Joe, stop us from getting into a war with Iran. Very loudly.
He was single-minded.
And he walked off, and he went, I believe, into the Oval. So when one of President Trump's closest advisors, who is vocally advocating for us to not go to war with Iran and for us to rethink at least our relationship with the Israelis, and then he's suddenly publicly assassinated, and we're not allowed to ask any questions about that. It's a data point. It's a data point that we need to look into.
What do you mean when you say we're not allowed to ask any questions about that?
We've been told that this individual, Robinson, is a lone gunman, and maybe he is. But the investigation that I was a part of, the National Counterterrorism Center was a part of, we were stopped from continuing to investigate. And the FBI will say that they stopped that because they wanted to have turn everything over to the Utah state authorities. Everything's going to trial. It's very, very sensitive. But there was still a lot.
Did you hear that? Are you listening? The head of the National Center for Counterterrorism was stopped from looking further into Charlie Kirk's assassination. How can we trust that a proper investigation is being done when the people who want to investigate it are being told to stop? How can we continue to villainize Candace Owens for doing the investigation that the proper authorities won't allow people to do? I'm getting some, excuse me. The people whose job it is to investigate what happened to Charlie Kirk are being told not to investigate it. And I got so worked up. Hold on, I got a cough. It just gets me worked up. It really grinds my gears. I'm serious. Because it's just like, it just doesn't even make sense anymore. They're not even trying to make it make sense for us. And it's like, that's how I know that it's like, they're like, well, we don't care. It's true because we said so. It's not true because we said it's not true. And so for me, Joe Kent is a hero. He's a hero. And I'm very grateful that he's been very open to sharing why he's decided to step away. And I think and I hope and pray that more stand-up men will do that. If we have more politicians like this, America would be okay. America will be okay. And so to land this plane, I just want to remind you, by the way, this was Joe Kent. Okay? Respectfully, respectfully, respectfully. Very handsome guy. They was hating on him. They hating on you, Joe. Don't let them get you down. You keep doing what it is that you're doing. You did the right thing. So when you see charges come across your screen about, oh, Joe Ken's been arrested, just know they're persecuting an innocent man. To land this plane, it made me think about this quote from Edward Snowden, who said, when exposing a crime is treated as committing a crime, you are being ruled by criminals. What else can I say? What else can I say? I think it's more fitting, actually, if we end on this note so that we can remember what we were promised, so that we know that that's not what it is that we're getting.
These war hawks, they want to draft your kids to die in wars, and they will never fight themselves. You know, we'll stay around the country for 15 years, just bomb the hell out of everybody, make everybody miserable. Nobody knows why we're there, you know, the wars that never end. These endless wars that we've been in, I've gotten us out of so many. We don't want to get into wars. We're tired of fighting. I'm the only president in the last 84 years that didn't start a war. Under Trump, we will have no more wars. No more wars. No more wars. We will have prosperity and peace. We will have prosperity and we will have peace. Remember, I'm the president of peace. They said, he will start a war. I'm not going to start a war. I'm going to stop wars. He's going to start a war. I said, no, no, no. My rhetoric is going to keep us out of wars. And that's what happened. My proudest legacy will be that of a peacemaker. That's what I want to be, a peacemaker. We will measure our success not only by the battles we win, but also by the wars that we end, and perhaps most importantly, the wars we never get into.
Well, that was nice while it lasted, huh? That's what we voted for, and that is what we are not getting. Thank you for watching. While you're here, please make sure that you like, comment, and subscribe. I want to hear your thoughts on this. And when you see negative stuff being said about Joe Kent, just know that it's not really what happened. I did my best to summarize what the reality is, and the reality is this. When exposing a crime is treated as committing a crime, you're being ruled by criminals. Thanks so much for watching. I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
Wanna see everybody throw it up. If you ain't folks, can't go with us. After school program, just don't do